Okay. You all should have received an email from me just stating some of the week zero, step zero assignments that were needed to be completed prior to today's training. I want to review those things just to make sure that you guys receive those 11 steps that needed to be completed, 11 assignments that needed to be completed prior to today's training. Some of them are not needed at this time just because due to the changes with the states, they're not requesting one of these things. So I will go down this list and then emphasize which ones are not needed. Please feel free throughout this training, if you have any questions, to include your questions in the question section on this Zoom. Um, there's a chat box. It should be at the bottom of your screen, towards the middle of your screen. It says chat. If you have any questions that come up throughout this training, please add your chat in that chat box there. I'll be continuously looking to make sure I answer those questions, but keep yourself muted. Your camera can be on or off, whatever you guys feel comfortable with, but definitely remember to add your chats within that chat box. Okay, so going over the pre task that I sent you guys when you signed up. The first one would be to request a license and application. Hopefully, you guys were able to get to that point prior to today, because that's going to be something we're going to go through throughout this 20-week process. The next step was to request your reimbursement rates for the services that you're planning on providing. In the first few weeks, we'll be identifying better what services are best for your agency. We'll be going through all of the services that you can potentially offer. So that will give you a better idea looking at those reimbursement rates, which reimbursement rate applies to the services that you're planning on providing. Number three was, of course, your agency name or your business name. We need to get that identified. So hopefully that has been finalized. Next would be a business email and a business telephone. I did recommend GoDaddy, but if you guys had other options that you were looking into, that's fine. These are just recommendations. Um, Number five was your virtual address, and it couldn't be a PO box. Again, I did recommend the UPS store, but there's so many different virtual address. The only criteria that I did emphasize when finding the virtual address is that it wasn't a PO box. Some people use their home address. Some people use other platforms to set up their virtual address. That is completely fine. Next was obtaining a business license. I did recommend an LLC. However, if you were advised to have another business structure, that's completely fine too. This is just the simpler business structure that I recommend. It's the most affordable. It's the easiest entity to set up when you're first starting out. Um, so this is why I recommend the LLC. Along with the LLC, you're required to have your articles of organization and your operating agreement. So that was something that is required as part of your license and entity setup. It also will be required with your application. So we will come back around to need that to attach to as your new provider application. Next, we had setting up your EIN. That was consider your social security number of your business. That is also something that will come up again that we will need to utilize at some point of our training. Business bank account, you're going to be required to have 3 months of working capital. So that business bank account will be utilized throughout this process. Everyone's 3 months will look different. We will go do a deep dive into that as we're going through this training. But you will utilize putting money into that business bank account to set up and form that 3 months of working capital. And lastly was the beneficial ownership information report. That is no longer something that the state is requiring. I don't know if a lot of you got to this point, but that is no longer something that's needed. That was something big that was going on the last few years. And then it was, null and void at a certain point. So that is not something that's needed anymore. So we will be crossing that off our list of to do. Oh, I have on here create business mission, vision, and value statement. So that was something that we will be diving into today. So hopefully you got an opportunity to create your business mission, value, and vision statement because that will be on your um, program design. Okay, so those were the tasks that I would have liked to see completed prior to the start of our training today. Um, this is a very fast pace, fast moving training. We will spend an hour each week going over the material, actually deep diving into the training. The rest of the week, you guys will be filled with assignments, getting things done. There will be a ton of assignments. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to stay on top of these assignments. Every week, I'm going to give you all assignments. When you fall behind one week, it starts creating a toll on you. It becomes overwhelming. So I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to complete these weekly assignments. The reason why we have weekly assignments and the reason why it's so important to complete these weekly assignments is because we're building up all of our supporting documentation that's going to be required to submit our application. Okay, so there's policy and procedures that will need to be done. There's a service plan that or program design that needs to be done. And then what you're essentially doing, because I give you the blueprint, you're essentially making sure what I give you as the blueprint is mirroring with your agency's vision and values, and it's mirroring with your state, their standards that they have in place for you all. So that's the bulk of what the assignments would be doing is taking the blueprint that I've given you and making sure it's in alignment with your state and making sure it's in alignment with your agency. Okay, now going into what we're going to be covering each week, what our week is going to be looking like. Um, Let's see. So we have week number one. Just give me 1 second while I pull this up. Okay, so week number one is essentially going over the program design. The program design is probably 20 pages of how your program is going to be operating, what services you're going to be providing, how are you going to be providing these services, where are you going to be providing these services, and to whom you're going to be providing these services. So it's a 20-page document where we're outlining every aspect of your business. This program design needs to be submitted before they even will, entertain your application. They want to make sure, for one, you're qualified to render these services. They want to make sure the services that you render is in alignment with your qualification. They want to make sure the services that you rendered are in standard with your state standards. They want to make sure that if you're providing these services in the building, that there's some checks and balances that you have identified that will be done within your facility. So it's a very meaty documentation or document with a lot of information that the state will review before, like I said, accepting your application. So this will be the very first thing that needs to be submitted to your state before you submit your application. Okay, so that's what we'll be spending week one, week two, week three, week four, week five. And week six, we'll be doing the program design, possibly week seven, depending on how fast paced, how fast moving we're going, but possibly week seven as well. Week eight, we dive into financial management. So it's everything financial. We'll be going over your financial projection. We'll be bringing back up those reimbursement rates and looking at identify what reimbursement rates are applicable to the services that you plan on rendering. We'll be looking at revenue, taxes, payroll, everything that involves your expenses and revenue. We'll be looking at during weeks 8, 9, and 10. So all of that will be focused on all of your financials. Possibly week 11, like I said, depending on how fast paced we're moving, it may bring us into week 11, our financials. Oh, I'm frozen. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Am I still frozen? That's okay. So we were on week 13. Week 13 was location. So we'll do everything location training, how to find a location, what type of location is, we'll get you certified and licensed, how to negotiate your lease, how to develop your LOI, which is your letter of intent, which you submit before you sign a lease. It's your negotiation phase with your landlord. So everything location wise we'll cover in week 13 and we'll cover in week 14. Getting into week 15 through 20 is all policy and procedures. We'll be covering incident management, incident reporting, incident management, human resources, program service delivery, quality assurance, any, financial protocols that need to be in place. We'll cover for the remaining of our training. And then I like to take the last few weeks, probably the last 2 or so weeks for Q&A. At that point, you should be had submitted your program design, submitted your application, signed a lease for your location, and now it's just Q&A on how to, facilitate and finalize all of those aspects of your licensing process. Okay, so now that we have an overview of how the training is going to go, we're going to start our training. I'm going to share my screen now. We're going to cover our provider program service plan. This is the very initial document that you will need to present to the state before they accept your application. So this is a very important document that will be required. Hopefully you guys can see my screen. Let's see.
I can see it.
Yes,
You
Okay.
see
I
it,
can see it.
Jasmine?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this, like I said, is going to be the blueprint. You will need to tweak this document, like I previously said, you will need to tweak this document to make sure it's in alignment with your state standards and to make sure it's in alignment with your agency standards, your agency values, okay? This is very baseline information. It's approvable information, but you need to make sure it resonates with your agency because remember, this document will be your Bible on how you're rendering all of your services and who you're rendering your services to. Okay, so first and foremost, the first question they need to have you answer on your program design or your program service plan, each state calls it something different, so I'll interchange those languages, either service design or service plan or program design. So why is our agency interested in becoming a provider of day training services, day program services? Why is your agency interested? So here's the very basic answer to the question that I have provided you guys. So our agency is committed to providing quality services and supports to people with developmental disabilities. We understand the critical role that employment plays in the person's life. And as a program of day training services, we will strive to provide our individuals with meaningful, purposeful vocational activities that can build their skills, further their education, and allow them to control their lives more. We promote self-sufficiency, empowering individuals to become independent and have a better quality of life. So, if you are not an agency that plan on providing vocational services, this will not align with you. If you are an agency that's planning on providing socialization aspect of it, you want to make sure your why aligns with your agency. Everyone should be planning on providing quality of services, quality of life. That is definitely something that should be across the board. But as far as the services you're planning on providing, it may not be vocational, so make sure it aligns with the services you plan on providing. And what your agency plans on offering. If it's medication support, if it's medical support, it's like I said, socialization, it needs to be in alignment with what your agency is anticipating on providing. Um,
Sorry to interrupt. I'm
mhm.
from, okay, yeah, I live in the Bay Area, NorCal. So, like for this, like the agency, what service agency provide. So I wanna like see like community care based. I don't think it the medication. Like you said, it has to align with the state requirement. Like, do you know anything about like California state requirement for adult daycare program?
I do. And if you could just have answer your questions or ask your questions in the chat.
Sure.
Yeah, I can answer them when they come up. I can see the chat.
Okay, got
Okay.
it. Yeah.
So our qualifications, so they need to know what your agency's qualifications are. So they need to know what your experience is with serving adults with intellectual and developmental disability. If you, as the owner, do not have experience serving adults with intellectual and developmental disability, you should have hired or have somebody on your team who has experience. If you have experience, they need you to essentially put your resume, like when was that experience? What type of services did you provide to adults with intellectual disability? In what setting? It's essentially information that you would put on a resume. You have to have at least 1 year or more experience, or somebody on your team has to have 1 year or more of experience working with adults with intellectual and developmental disability in some type of capacity. And that experience needs to be outlined on your program design.
Okay.
Okay.
Um, what was Jasmine's question about the medication or something?
So she's going into service types. We didn't get to service types yet.
Okay.
But her question was involving service types, like types of services that they offer in the state of California. And both of you are in California. And
Yeah.
I've worked with a lot of agencies in California, so I'm very familiar with services that are offered in California. But when we get down to service types, we can identify what service types resonates more with you all. But we haven't gotten that to that part yet.
Okay.
Okay,
Got it.
so next we're going with agency philosophy, mission, and vision. This is something that you guys should have done prior to this call today. Every agency has to have a mission, a value statement, a vision statement is required by the state. I gave very generic ones, but hopefully you guys have drafted up your own. One of the ones that I have on here is our philosophy in providing services to people with developmental disability is that all individuals should have access to care that fully meets their individual and unique needs.
Mhm.
At the agency, you can always fill in your name here. Where I put the agency is where you can fill in your agency's name if this resonates with you. If it doesn't, of course, make sure it resonates or you put what you have already written. But at the agency, our mission is to provide innovative, holistic, and compassionate care to people with developmental disabilities, recognizing and respecting their life's journeys, experience, and potential. Our vision is to create a safe space for individuals to express themselves, identify their needs, and create plans and pathways towards living their best life and most fulfilling life. We strive to foster collaboration between health professionals and the families of people with developmental disabilities to ensure the best individualized care each person needs and deserves. The agency's goals is to inspire hope, build strength and confidence, and create meaningful opportunities for all individuals, regardless of their physical or developmental condition. So you should be one of the things that I need you to pull out of this mission, vision, or value statement is that you're providing individualized care. Every state requires you to have person-centered planning, person-centered care. Okay. So that's one thing that you all should have in your vision or value statements. It's not a one size fits all. Your agency shouldn't be a one size fit all. It should be person centered. And then you should be making sure you're, strengthening upon their current skill set. Wherever they are, you're building upon that. That should be one of the visions and missions of your agency. If you have anything outside of that and you want me to look at it and review it and see if it's in alignment with the state standards, I will be more than happy to do so. But typically, your vision is not something they, pick apart too much. As long as it's in something that's building up your clientele and providing a self-centered service, a person-centered service, I should say. Okay. So next, you have to put your agency's operating hours. Typically, your hours can be 24 hours if you like. However, because most of your clientele would be in a group home during the day or supportive living home during the day, or during the night, I'm sorry, during the night, they typically don't require day services at night. But it's not to say that you can't provide day services, maybe at 12 to 6 o'clock p.m., 12 p.m. to 6 p.m., or 1 to 7. I mean, you can provide services during the evening time if you like. The one thing about the services you're providing is there's a 6 hour a day cap. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about your operating hours. You can only provide your services for up to 6 hours. And it's typically 5 days a week. So anybody that you are providing services to, it's 5 days a week, 6 hours a day max. So however you want to structure your program, keep those two things in mind. My recommendation would be Monday through Friday, 7 to 3, 8 to 4, 9 to 5. Those are some of the ideal schedules because most times they don't have staff in the group home around that time. To receive this document. Oh yeah, you guys will get this document. Everything that I cover in here, you will get the document and it's going to be available for you to edit. That's why I say make sure you review all these documents and you ensure that they align with your state standards and your agency values. So yeah, this document will be sent to you today along with today's assignment.
Okay.
So yeah, that's for the recommended hours. So like I said, Monday through Friday, 7 to 3, 8 to 4, 9 to 5. Most major holidays, the building is closed. So, but you can vary those operating hours how you see fit, as long as it's 5 days a week, 6 hours a day. And you can even do like double shifts. So say you want to have clients come from, 6 to 2, and then you want to have an evening shift of clients coming in from, 2 to 10. You can definitely do that as well. You can split your days. So you can get very creative with scheduling. So if you guys have any questions about how you should set up your schedule, definitely let me know.
Okay.
Okay, so our agency's process is to ensure person-centered services are provided and reflect the person's priority and preference for work. So, how you figure out what services are needed in your area is you'll get there's a list with the state agency that you're working with, and they can tell you if day services are needed. If you're talking about certain services, like if they need socialization services, or job services or educational services, you can also check with the state agencies and they'll tell you what services are needed. But you have to base your services off your area of expertise. So I know, Jasmine, you mentioned dementia clients. If you have experience working with clients with dementia, you or patients, as long as you have the experience to back that, then you can serve those clients. You will have to train your staff to support those clients. You will, have to make sure there's a specialized training available in orientation and annual training if you're planning on supporting those clients. But as long as you have the experience to back those clients or to support those clients, then you can serve those clients. However, there's no additional pay if you're providing services for clients with dementia. So if you guys have already received a copy of your reimbursement rates, you'll see on your reimbursement rates what's reimbursable, like what you can get reimbursed for. So just think about that because you don't want to, take on too many difficult clients if it's not a drastic uh
Increase
reimbursement,
in pay.
yeah, reimbursement difference. It's just sometimes not worth it. But if you find out there's a need for providers that serve those clienteles, that may be something you want to take on. So, you have to make sure you get the information of what type of services are needed in your area. And then what your reimbursement pay would be to provide those services for those clients and make sure it matches your revenue goals. And we'll get a lot more into revenue goals, like I said, in week 8. We'll dive deep into how much money you actually need to make it work for you as an agency so that you're not, going under before you even start.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so looking at the priorities. So most of you will be your program director. I'm thinking when we get into the HR aspect, you can figure out how many employees that you'll need right from the beginning. But you need to have a person who has the experience. So if that's going to be you and you have the experience to provide the services, you will be the program director. This is the person that will assess all of your clients and figure out what person-centered services will be applicable to them. Okay. So the program director is to complete an assessment at 4 points of the starting phase. So you have to have somebody in-house that can complete an assessment at 4 times before, during their starting phase. So they will conduct an assessment prior to the initial start of services. So that's typically an intake meeting that you'll have to have. So your program director will set up a tour, and I'll kind of briefly go over this with you all because it needs to be in your program design that this is part of your systems that you have in place. So your program director needs to schedule a tour right from the start when they receive the referral, and we will go into how you receive referrals, how you market your service. But once they receive a referral from either the state, from either somebody walking into your agency, from another provider, like a home provider, service coordinator, they'll have to set up the tour. Once they come in for the tour is when the assessment starts. So they'll assess them during the tour and make sure they're in alignment. They need the services that you have said you're going to be offering, and you can provide those services to this particular person. That's essentially what the assessment part is. In phase 2 of my program, we go a lot more into like documents, the systematic part of the business, like how to create documents to do assessments, files for your employees, file for your individuals. But for licensing purposes and application purposes, they just need to know your process. So you'll have an assessment sheet that you fill out when they come in for their tour and when they come in for their first initial meeting. So if at the tour you feel like they're a good fit for your program, as a provider, you need to set up an intake meeting. And at that intake meeting, you'll have all of their support caregivers involved. And you'll go over that assessment sheet with them. It just talks about their likes, their dislikes, supports that they need, whether it be medical supports, behavioral supports. So if you're planning on providing medical supports or behavioral supports, you want to make sure you can support them to that capacity. Not everybody that needs medical supports may be suitable for your program. Not everybody that needs behavioral supports, if you're providing behavioral supports, may be suitable for your program. So you want to make sure, they say they need like feeding tubes. Are your staff trained for that? So you want to make sure you get all of those questions answered during the assessment phase. And the state requires you, that's why you're doing this program design that you're going to submit to the state before you even submit your application, so that they know you have all these systems in place and you're equipped to assess all of your clients and provide the suitable care for them. Okay. So you'll assess them during that intake meeting, and then you'll assess them 30 days after receiving services. So once you start serving them, you want to continue that assessment. You want to make sure they still are suitable for your program. You still can provide the supports for them. You can still provide, like I said, the behavioral supports, the medical supports. And it's not something that's overextending your staff's training expertise or experience. And then you want to assess them quarterly and every year thereafter. Okay, so that is a requirement from the state that you have four assessment phases, 4 or 5, because I include the tour as an assessment when they come in for the tour. But you have these assessment phases where you're continuously assessing your clients. This shows that you are equipped to make sure you're providing the person-centered supports for each of your clients. Okay, so the assessment will be provided by the program director with valuable information about the person receiving services, to include their interests, likes, dislikes, desired outcomes, and goals. Persons served work goals and plans will be based upon individual assessed interests, likes, dislikes, desired outcomes, and goals. So every state requires you as a provider to make sure you're assessing these things and make sure you're setting up their supports based upon this information. Okay, so this part is very, very important. I would make very little changes to this if you're planning on making changes to this document. This is the one part that is required. You need to make sure that that assessment is done and all of their support plans are set up based upon their desired outcomes, goals, likes, dislikes, and their interests. Members will be given the opportunity to direct some or all of their rehabilitation services. So you always want to involve your clients in the decision making on the services that they receive. Okay. Whenever possible, you want to extend their ability and desires. So you want to always continue to grow your clients, like we said in our mission and value statement, which was one of the key things. The service that you set up should always be in alignment with, extending their abilities and their desires, exposing them to new and more opportunities. So the team must determine if the member's ability and desires and direct services by assessments and observation, and address this in the client's plan. So their support plan. Every client will have a support plan, and that would essentially be the things they're working on or supports that they need, whether that be behavioral support or health or medical support. Okay, so now we're going to get into all of the services that you could possibly provide. And when we're looking at this list, make sure you're identifying what services you as an agency are planning on providing, because we'll need to know sooner than later what services you are going to be providing. The first type of services that you can provide falls under the rehabilitation services. So this is essentially like the recreational type activities, the socialization type agencies. So essentially your agency is planning on providing socialization where they're playing games throughout the day, like bingo, just something that will enhance their socialization. Maybe you have a music room where they're, learning music, or computer room. Computer room can fall under socialization, but if they're doing just like crossword puzzles and things like that on the computer, anything education based will go into another category. But for this rehabilitation and this socialization base, it could be, you have a salon, for example, in your center where you guys are, they're getting their nails done, getting their hair done. It's all socialization based. Okay. Any questions about what socialization base is? Okay. Uh,
Is there like a website or anything we can see where the activities that are, for example, you said hair and nail.
you just
I
spa.
don't, yeah,
Mhm.
I don't expect you to lay out everything now and today, but where can we get this information? What we can do, what we can't do,
You can
or
do anything your mind like your what the more unique your agency is, the more
uh-huh.
clientele you will have. You don't want to be like any other agency. What you can
Yeah.
set your mind to, I mean, the sky is the limit when it comes to socialization. Yeah, you want to be as unique and different from your competitors as you possibly can.
Right.
So I mean, you can look on Pinterest and see like what are some of the socialization activities for adults with intellectual disabilities. I mean, if you want to be generic and use what everybody else use, you can look up adult daycares and their activities. There's a ton of a long list online you can get from them. If you want to
Okay.
do, just go with the common consensus of what people have set up.
Okay.
But like in our agency, we have a movie theater. Like we're one of the only agencies that actually have a movie theater on site. So you can be as creative as you want. And I would advise you to be very creative with the services, especially if you're going down the socialization aspect of it. Because
Mhm.
a lot of agencies provide socialization services. That is the most common service that most of the agencies provide. When we get down to some of these other services, they're more unique just in themselves because a lot of agencies do not provide these other services we're going to dive into. But socialization is the most common service across the board that most agencies provide. So if you're going to go with the socialization service, make sure the activities you offer are very unique, very different. The more unique you can be, the better you'll stand out from the rest of the agencies.
Okay.
And then socialization can be done either in the community or in the facility. So you have the option of being a community-based services or a facility-based services. So a lot of people don't know you don't have to be facility-based. It's a little harder being community-based because it's typically one-on-one. And it's dollar for dollar, so you're not really expanding your revenue streams that way. But yeah, it could be community based or facility based. So let's just keep that in mind as well. But
Can
it's
we do both?
you could do
Is
both.
that what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, you could do both. I advise for you to do both because you can go on outings. Um,
Mm-hmm.
However, you'll need a van, so that's just an up cost expense you have to take into consideration. If you're doing community based, you'll need a van to transport
Okay.
your clients. So yeah.
Okay.
So next we have pre-vocational. Pre-vocational is a service that a lot of people do not offer. It's essentially job training services. So you are teaching your clients how to get a job in the community. So they're building resumes, they're learning job interviewing skills, they're searching for jobs online at your site. They're doing mock interviewing, they're volunteering, like you're actually taking them to places where they can volunteer on site to get that work experience. They're learning about financial literacy, how to be safe in the community, if they're going to be using public transportation. So yeah, pre-vocational again is another very unique service that you can offer. This is, like I said, in itself is one of the unique services. Not a lot of agencies provide pre-vocational. One, because you have to hire to a higher functioning client.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very competitive trying to find community partnership that will allow your clients to come in and volunteer. But it's definitely a very sellable service. Like a lot of clients, most clients, especially in California, they're looking for an agency that's going to help make their child essentially self-sufficient,
Yeah.
and making money in the community, and be able to possibly get their own apartment. That is essentially the goal. It's just a harder service to provide. You have to be more structured. You
Mhm.
have to have a curriculum in place if you're going down this route. It's not as easy as playing bingo or going on outings or getting going in the salon. This is definitely has to be well thought out, well planned, and it has to be skilled staff that can actually provide the services to your clients so that the delivery is a good quality of service being delivered.
Okay.
Next, another very unique service, the classroom focus, so the continuing education part. Most of the adults with intellectual disability age out of high school at 23, 25. When they age out of high school, they're still at potentially a third, fourth grade level education. So a lot of agencies apt to not a lot, but a handful of agencies will take on this education, continuing education aspect of a service where they're actually providing reading, math, spelling in their facility. They're continuing the client's education. Another very difficult service to implement, just because, again, you need more skilled staff that can provide this type of services that can continue to teach a person with intellectual disability. It may even be helpful to have like an educational background, which means you have to pay a little bit more than you
Yeah.
would a entry level staff that's providing that socialization aspect of service. But again, this is a great selling point. This is ideally what the clients are looking for. They're looking for either vocational training. They're looking for continuous education, learning how to continue to read and spell so it can enhance their skill set. So these are just, another service again that's definitely needed. And I can tell you right now, across the board, including in California, that's this pre-vocational aspect and this continuing education aspect is a service that is way underserved. A lot of people don't dive into these services, like I said, just because of the skill set of your employee aspect of it and making sure it's properly implemented. It requires more planning. A curriculum structure has to be set up. So you would have to have somebody on staff with a teaching background that can kind of help facilitate this.
Okay.
Okay. Next, let's go into the life skill training. So,
Before you move to the next one, will a high school teacher be qualified for something like that? Somebody with a high school teaching and coaching background?
oh yeah, of course. Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can partner or afford in the beginning to hire. I mean, typically they ask for a higher pay, of course, but if you know somebody that's willing to come in and help facilitate that, that would be the perfect person.
Okay.
Yeah, the perfect person. Like I said, going into this life skill aspect of it, and that's just teaching like how to do laundry. If you have a laundry facility on site, that would be great. You can teach them how to wash clothes, fold. Cooking classes would be another great aspect under this life skill part of it. Money management is another great one. Communication skills, community access, like I was mentioning earlier, how to, ride public transportation. How do you get a bus pass? How do you know the bus routes? Things of that nature, would be a great aspect, that can go under your life skill training service. How to tie your shoe. I mean, that this can, anything life skill related, you can set up little stations down from hygiene, including skincare, yeah, oral care. Yeah, you can definitely expand upon this life skill part of it. This is another common service that you'll see a lot of people providing. However, it's still a really great service to provide. So yeah, always check and see what's needed. But if you go with something that's oversaturated already, you definitely want to make your services unique. You don't want to provide the exact same structure as other agencies provide, just as far as like a marketing and standing out from the rest aspect of it.
Okay.
Okay. And then we go into transportation. So transportation is a service. You definitely can get a van and pick up your client and bring them to your program and then drop them off home. Um, that's a reimbursement. You'll get reimbursed for this service. However, make sure the reimbursement rate is compatible with how much you're going to spend in transportation. Majority of the transportation reimbursement rates, and definitely check your transportation reimbursement rates, are pretty low in comparison to what you'll pay for gas, what you'll pay for vehicle maintenance, what you'll pay for insurance, what you'll pay if you're making a monthly payment on the vehicle if you don't buy it outright. The reimbursement rates are typically on the lower end and not essentially if just covering what you're spending out. So keep that in mind. But transportation is a service a reimbursable service that you can offer. It just always sometimes the reimbursement doesn't equate to what you're spending out when it comes to transportation. But if it does, this is a great service to add on. Meals and snacks. So not unlike adult daycares, you do not get paid for providing meals and snacks. Essentially, your client should be expected to come with their lunch, their drinks and their snacks to eat. If you do plan on providing snacks, you will not be reimbursed for that. If you plan on providing meals, you will not be reimbursed for that. So definitely keep that in mind. A lot of people are researching adult daycares, and that's one structure that does pay for meals and snacks. However, adult day programs, you do not get reimbursed for this service. So it's okay to have a one-off like party, celebration. But I would advise against providing any meals and snacks. It's also okay to even have water available for emergencies if need be, or a water fountain available for emergencies if need be. But actually, day to day, having meals and snacks, I would advise against that because you're spending out money that is not being returned. Even though it's a great thing to have, it just financially doesn't make sense to have it.
Okay.
Okay, so personal care assistance, this is something that we are expected to do. It is not an additional reimbursement or not additional service. So if you're providing assistance in the bathroom, helping your clients change, you do not get reimbursed for this service. However, you can negotiate the reimbursement rate. So there's going to be levels. So I want to have both of you looked at the reimbursement rates already. Have you guys had an opportunity to do so?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I found the sheet from the regional center website. I don't know if that's the correct one. It's like really detailed
Yes.
reimburse. Yeah, it's like I try to figure out like it's like percentage, like a dollar for certain type of service. Yeah, I just need help to like read it to understanding the
Okay.
form. Yeah.
So
It's hard to decipher the codes.
so the codes should be, do you guys see on your reimbursement sheet where it says day program or day services? Do you see a section that says day services by any chance?
Yes, but they put it in hourly, or they would say this is monthly. It doesn't quite say like daily, but I think I figured out that they give you only 30 hours a week, so you can divide it like in 6 hours every day for a week. And the day the daily reimbursement is $130 if it's 1 to 3, and $190 something if it's Excuse me. It's 1 to 2. It
Yeah,
depends on the ratio. Yeah.
so that's what I have,
Yeah.
130 and 190, depending on the ratio. Was
Yeah.
that you, what that said that?
Yes.
Okay, Jasmine, you don't see that on yours, the 1 to 3 ratio and the 1 to 2?
Uh, yeah, I think I see that. Yeah, I see the same thing.
What does it say for your one to
Yeah.
three?
122 is so full rate. So there is a full rate is 188
Are you in San
and
Francisco, Jasmine?
actually this one I got it from yeah, Golden Gate Regional Center.
Yeah. San Francisco.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
the
San
same
Francisco is
one.
188 and the East Bay is 190 something. I forgot the change.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's the same one. So yeah, okay, so you guys do have the right reimbursement rates. So the 1 to 3 is for higher functioning clients that don't require behavioral supports or medical supports. The 1 to 2 are for clients that provide or need behavioral supports and medical support. So when I say medical supports, possibly medication administration, they're a fall risk, they're choke risk. They need some type of supports with like a feeding tube when they're on site. So those are the 1 to 2s. So there should only be two rates that you guys are looking at, the 1 to 3s and the 1 to 2.
Mhm. Okay. That's what I saw at least.
Okay,
Is
so
it is
mhm.
this an hourly rate?
That's a
No,
daily rate. It's
Daily
by
rate.
the day, up to 6 hours a day.
Mhm.
Okay, got it.
Okay. So that's where I was saying up to 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. That's the daily rate. And you can only have 5 days a week at,
Okay.
at 6 hours a day. So that's for the day. Okay. Anything over 6 hours, don't expect to be paid any additional money. It's that 197, 188. That's for the one day for 5 days. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so you have to determine if you want to support behavioral clients and medical clients that need medical support, you'll be at that 1 to 2, the higher rate. If you don't, then you'll be at the 1 to 3. There's only two things you'll need to look at.
Okay. And what's this base rate, 90% of a full rate? What does that mean? $116.
So yeah, that's if you're starting out sometime, if you're giving a like a temporary licenses, you're not at full rate yet.
Oh, all right. Okay.
But when
Got it.
you apply, more than likely you're going to go for the full license, not a temporary short-term license.
Okay.
Yeah, so you just need to look at those two rates. Okay. Um, any other questions that you guys have?
Sorry, earlier when you say meals and snacks, it's a like a it's easy to provide. Like, do we have to provide meals and snacks for a client?
No, you do
No.
not. You know you don't get reimbursed for providing meals and snacks. So I wouldn't recommend you provide meals and snacks. I do recommend you um making it mandatory that your clients bring their own meals and snacks.
Okay.
Yes, because there's no reimbursement. You don't get paid to do that. So why would you do that unless you just want to do that?
Right.
Will it also be a problem with the like food safety and like refrigerators and like have the health code for kitchen and refrigerators and food safety?
So if you're just providing a refrigerator and a microwave for them to heat up their own food, you don't have to comply with food safety because you're not cooking any food.
Okay.
You won't have a full kitchen. You don't need to look for a site with a full kitchen. I wouldn't even advise you to have a full kitchen because if you have a full kitchen, then they'll assume that you're going to be cooking meals. If you have a stove in there, they're going to assume you're going to be cooking meals. So it's one thing just having a hot plate you can plug in if you guys are doing cooking classes, but I would not have a full kitchen and I would let them know we're not providing any meals and snacks. They bring their own. We just need to provide a refrigerator and a microwave for them. That is it.
Okay.
Now,
Um,
if you do provide meals and snacks, then there will be another policy that needs to be written and in place if you're planning on doing that. So I would need to know.
Oh no, that's trouble. So, Tara, I called the regional center. I left a message and like also emailed them. I still didn't get back from them. So for the provider application, but I found something online. I wonder if this is
Oh, yeah.
something. Yeah.
California's application is online. It's not, you don't have to request a copy.
Oh, okay.
Oh, what, did
It's
you get the application already? Because you should be able to pull it up.
Yes, I see it. I did not pull it, but yes, I see it. Yeah.
Okay.
You're talking about the CCLD or the original
The CCLD.
CCLD? Okay. Yeah, I think I saw it.
where do I find that one? CCLT?
Yeah. You know, the licensing agency, the governing body of that is CCLD. Regional center is the one that gives you clients and give you the money, the reimbursement. There are two things. I used to get confused about those things. I used to think they were the same thing, but they're different.
So regional center is who you need to submit your program design to. So what we're going over, you need to submit that to regional center before you can start submitting your application. So it's tricky.
Oh, oh,
Okay.
so regional first before CCLD.
Yes, yes, you have to submit this program design to regional center, get their approval before you can even submit your application to CCLD.
Okay,
Oh,
okay. I have one question. I have a place that I found that needs a lot of work, but there is some part of it that is really good and functional. Can I say I'm not going to use this portion of the building, but I'm going to use the other portion of the building? What problems that does that bring? It's one address.
I have, you only want to use one part of the building, but you're paying for the whole building?
Yes, because it's big, so I don't have the capital to fix everything, but there is a space that is really good and that has everything.
Is a landlord letting you only paying for one part of the building?
Actually, that is something that I wanted to buy.
Okay, you're gonna buy it, but you're not gonna use the whole thing.
Well, I
You,
wish I had all the money to fix it at the same time, but I'm gonna take a portion of it, make it good, but the other portion can wait because it's big and it's expensive.
okay, so that's something you would have to run by fire permitting and planning. If
Okay.
they'll let you like put a wall up possibly and put that space as not accessible or usable.
Mhm.
But they would have to approve that because they may say that's a safety hazard, or they may require you, like I said, to put a wall up. But you want to make sure it's approved by fire permitting, and they'll have to be able to say you can only use half of the building and
At
the
all.
half is not usable. But I mean, they may require you to put a wall up if you're not going to use that side so nobody can access it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Voila. Okay.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, part one of our program design training is completed. I'll need to send you guys over this entire document. I will let you guys know what needs to be completed this week in order to get this started. Yeah, I'll just send you guys it in an email. It'll be definitely way easier. But if there's any questions that come up once you receive the assignment email, let me know. But there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done this first week, along with whatever wasn't done week zero
uh,
assignment.
Tara, can you send me the provider application from CCLD?
Yeah,
Uh,
sure.
since we both in California, can you like maybe we can just focus? I don't know if there are other participants from
There
like
are, yeah, there's other
yeah.
states, so I have to make sure it's
Oh, okay. I
since
saw only two
yeah, it's only two of you on, but
today.
the videos are recorded, so some of my clients opt to just watch the recording.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So but yeah, that's so funny. The two California people showed up. You're the ones that's gonna show up live, but yeah. So, but there's Georgia. There's a couple other states, Georgia and Florida.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Can you send me the provider application from CCLD? And I found the one from a regional center, and I guess we also need to, start with that one.
Yeah, we have to start with the program design for Regional Center first and foremost.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll see you guys next week.
Okay.
And let me know if you guys have any questions that come up.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So questions
I'm sorry.
needs to be emailed to you, right?
Yes, please email me any questions, especially once I send you the assignment. I don't want anybody to be held up. So if you have
Okay.
any questions about the assignment I send you, please email me and then I will get back to you immediately so we can get everything completed for the week.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you.